Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Jai Gurudev. So yesterday we stopped here that it's a wonder. We're on the 29th verse, which is Ascharyavat Paschati Kaschidenam. Ascharyavat Vadati Tathaiva Chanyaha. Ascharyavat Chainam Anya Shrunoti. Shrutvapyenam Vedana Chaiva Kaschit. And how we saw the wonder of Atma. Life is like a very subtle joke. So all that is being talked about is oneself, a self-evident fact. We experience this Atma all the time. Only because of the Atma do we experience the world. Everything in the world is unlike Atma. This Atma as Ananda is very evident in moments of joy when we discover ourselves to be full, Purna. But still, even when it is pointed out that we are that whole, we do not understand, which is another wonder. Shrutva api enam vedana cha eva kaschit. The difficulty in understanding. Why is it that people cannot understand? It is not calculus or something that requires a certain intellectual preparation and acumen. All that is required here is to see what is being said. Yet, some do not see it. This is because seeing oneself is not like seeing an object. It is not knowledge of an object like a pot, which depends upon another object, clay, only one of which you may understand. To see oneself is knowledge of oneself as something that is not subject to negation. It is knowledge of the whole. Atma is therefore to be understood as the whole, that which is free from all attributes, which is yourself. All attributes are incidental. I will read this paragraph again. Why is it that people cannot understand? It is not calculus or something that requires a certain intellectual preparation and acumen. All that is required here is to see what is being said. Yet some do not see it. This is because seeing oneself is not like seeing an object. It is not knowledge of an object like a pot, which depends upon another object, clay, only one of which you may understand. To see oneself is knowledge of oneself as something that is not subject to negation. It is knowledge of the whole. Atma is therefore to be understood as the whole, that which is free from all attributes, which is yourself. All attributes are incidental. What is to be known here is very clear and in itself does not require any intellectual discipline like calculus. Even a wise person, in order to learn calculus, has to start from 1 plus 1 equals 2. And it will take the person ages to understand calculus. Atma, on the other hand, is very simple. All that is required are your experiences in life. That you have been constantly seeking is a fact. That there is no answer to the seeking is another fact. You have tried various pursuits and none of them has yielded what you wanted. This is also a fact. In between, you had some moments of joy, which is another fact. These two latter facts, that is, that there is no answer to the seeking, you have tried various pursuits and none of them has yielded what you wanted, and that there have been some moments of joy in between. So these two latter facts are the ones that you have to analyze in order to understand yourself, the Atma. Because you have assimilated certain experiences, you cannot say that you have no raw material to analyze. The three states of experience, waking, dream, and deep sleep themselves, provide you with enough data. That one state cancels another state is enough data. Therefore, it is not that you lack materials or data. All you require is someone to lift your vision, for which a means of knowledge, pramana, a teacher, acharya, and a vision, upadesha, are all there. Then you should be able to see the fact. Then understanding should take place. So to understand, to realize Atma does not require great technical knowledge. All you require is just your experiences, to analyze your experiences. So two of them. One is that you have pursued, you've been seeking, and that you have, while pursuing, none of them has yielded what you wanted. That is one. And that in between, you've had some moments of joy. And also the fact that we have three states of consciousness, these three states, waking, dream, and deep sleep. Each of them cancels the other. So all that is required is that you require someone to lift your vision. You need a pramana, an acharya, and upadesha, the teaching itself. And then you should be able to see the fact. then understanding should take place. To see an object is no problem. Your eyes are there, the object is there, and you see it. Similarly, if the teaching is available and the Atma is available, then knowledge should take place. There should be no hindrance to your gaining the knowledge. But still, seeing may not take place, and this not seeing is described in this verse as a wonder. Krishna pointed out here that seeing is a wonder and not seeing is a greater wonder. That a person can come out of the whole teaching untouched, unscathed, as it were, is definitely a wonder. That is someone who's been exposed to Vedanta but has not got anywhere close to understanding Atma, anywhere close to realizing Atma. That is a wonder. The one who knows Atma is a wonder. We can also take the verse differently, using the word Ascharyavat to mean that the person who knows the Atma is like a wonder. The affix vat means like, and therefore Ascharyavat means like a wonder. Among millions of people, only one person may be a seeker, and even among the seekers, only one person may see the truth of what is said. Understanding Atma is not easy. Therefore, one who knows Atma without any doubt whatsoever, one who sees it directly, Yaha Atmanam Pashyati, is a wonder because he or she has had to reverse an entire process. Our natural trait is to follow the beaten track in our ways of thinking, in our pursuits, and so on. We constantly strive to make something of ourselves because initially we condemn ourselves as useless. We try to set the Atma up nicely by the pursuit of a samsari. First, we think of the Atma as a samsari. Then we look for some means of support so that the samsari can be better, so that he or she can develop some spine, some character, and so on. We think of the Atma as so drooped that it requires some kind of a support system in order to be acceptable. This is the nature of people. They are like flowing water that finds its own level. In this way, people tend to follow the beaten track. Some may follow it better than others. If one person makes money in a particular pursuit, another may try to make the same money in another pursuit. But this is all really one beaten track with only minor variations. Nevertheless, such people are called creative, whereas the really creative person is one who questions the very seeker. He asks himself, am I a samsari? If one assumes that one is a samsari, any pursuit is a beaten track. The one who questions whether he or she is a samsari reverses the whole process. It is something like water climbing up the mountain. Water flowing down is nothing, it is natural. However, water that begins to flow upwards is truly a wonder, an ascharya to behold. All of humanity would gather to see water climbing up a mountain. Even to start the process of self-inquiry is a big thing. A certain grace is definitely required. Otherwise, starting is not possible. Just as it requires a lot of horsepower, Just as it requires a lot of horsepower to send water up a hill, so too, for a person who has been following the beaten track to question whether he or she is a samsari requires a lot of horsepower, God power, or grace. And if the person discovers the truth, he or she is definitely a wonder. So, what is being said here is that we normally, most people, take the beaten track. They want to go the usual way. They consider Atma as something that is, they consider themselves as useless, as someone who requires improvement, who requires to perfect. And then they go about seeking. And the seeking can be different in different ways. So we try to set up the Atma up nicely by the pursuit of a samsari. We first think of Atma as samsari, then we look for some means of support so the samsari can be better, so that he or she can develop some spine, some character, and so on. We think of the Atma as so drooped that it requires some kind of support system in order to be acceptable. This is the nature of people. They are like flowing water that finds its own level. So, in this way, we are like, for all of most of us, are like following the beaten track. Beaten track is like the water finding its own level, finding flowing water. It naturally flows along a slope. Wherever there is, wherever it can flow, it flows. That is the nature of water. So the fundamental problem is that we consider ourselves insecure, and in order to gain some security in the garb of a samsari, we go on seeking, and we seek outwardly. But the person who actually questions, am I a samsari? He is taking the the track less trodden, the track that is not trodden. He's climbing. It's like water climbing the mountain. It is not the normal route. The one who questions whether he or she is a samsari reverses the whole process. However, water that begins to flow upwards. See, water flowing down is nothing, it is natural. But water flowing upwards against the mountain, climbing up a mountain, that is the process of self-inquiry. And in order to do this, a certain grace is definitely required. Otherwise, it's not possible. And if the person discovers the truth, he is definitely a wonder. So the one who talks about Atma is also a wonder. The one who knows then is an Ascharya, and the one who talks about it is another Ascharya, because there is nothing really to talk about. When someone comes and says, I am overcome by sorrow, the person who knows the truth cannot really talk about it because he or she does not see any sorrow or problem at all. It is also a wonder that someone who knows there is no problem takes the person who has sorrow seriously enough to talk to him or her about it. Starting out as Krishna did, saying that there is no reason for sorrow, ashocyan anvashochahatvam, create some elbow room in which to talk. Otherwise, the one who knows cannot talk at all. So here it is said that the one who talks about Atma is also a wonder. The one who knows then is an Ascharya, and the one who talks about it is another Ascharya, because there is nothing really to talk about. When someone comes and says, I am overcome by sorrow, the person who knows the truth cannot really talk about it, because he or she does not see any sorrow or problem at all. It is also a wonder that someone who knows there is no problem takes the person who has sorrow seriously enough to talk to him or her about it. Starting out as Krishna did, saying that there is no reason for sorrow, create some elbow room in which to talk. Otherwise, the one who knows cannot talk at all. If Krishna had simply said, I am Ananda, you are Ananda, we are all Ananda, there would be nothing to talk about. To tell a person who says that he or she is sad, no, you are Ananda, leaves no room to talk, although the statement is true. To say that sorrow has no basis requires proof, and Krishna had 17 chapters in which to prove that what he said was a fact. He knew that to start by saying, you are Ananda, would give him no room to talk. Instead, Krishna talked as though there was a problem, and he as though solved it also. Thus, the talking itself is an ascharya, because what cannot be talked about is talked about. What cannot be verbally mentioned is mentioned. What cannot be captured by words is presented by words. This is indeed a wonder. The one who teaches is also a wonder, and the one who listens is another wonder. Can you tell an ordinary practical person who asks you what you are studying that you are learning self knowledge? No. If you did, your sanity would undoubtedly be questioned. The self is something that is impossible to talk about, and the one who comes to listen, the one in many millions, is a wonder. Such a person thinks that knowledge of the self is very important, whereas everyone else thinks of it as nonsense. They think those who take 3 years to study self-knowledge are wasting their time. They will say that you are fritting away the prime of your life, that you could have had 2 children in the same amount of time. There are so many aspects to this wonder. The wonder with a capital W. Any way you look at it, it is a wonder. The one who is able to see the Atma is a wonder. Or we can say that the one among many who sees the Atma does so with wonder. Also, there is no wonder that even after listening to the teaching, there are those who do not understand. This second interpretation is offered by Shankara in his commentary on this verse. Let me know if you want me to repeat anything or if you want to share anything before we proceed further.
So basically, when when we talked about what Atma is, even thinking about or uh, wonder about it, but then again, how Krishna goes about uh, saying, if you say straight up, like it's Satchit Ananda, like you are, that will be simply have no room for understanding and just go into detail to see the problem as though the problem exists, like seemingly that this is there, like this problem is there, how we go about solving it. So that's a nice way we put it, rather than saying Atma is the definition of Atma, like that. And also is how what he's saying is true also, right? How many people are seeking this knowledge? I'm sure a lot of people are into um, in spirituality. I mean, learning about spirituality. But then again, you have to really to get that, like how the water climbing up the mountain. That's a rare event. That example was nice. How one in a million like person trying to get there.
Hari Om. Uh, the process of self-inquiry, knowing that getting into the self-knowledge, it's all like God's grace. If it is not there, then you cannot seek. You cannot become a seeker. So I was relating it to as I'm studying astrology. So we find like some planets in various houses which should be present, then a person has that bent of mind. So I was just relating in that terms, like you see so many horoscopes, but a person with certain planets sitting in certain houses, those people have this bent of mind. And it also shows that uh, there are two houses, one shows God grace and one shows that punya karma. So again, I was relating how Mrinalji was always relating this with her astrology. Now I have started relating. Like if you have some knowledge, then it automatically get links, and you get answers very simply. Just wanted to share this. Yeah.
So, the one other thing to understand is the fact that usually, people follow the usual track. We start off saying, I'm inadequate. Even with respect to spirituality, people who come here, like we have those four different categories of seekers: Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu, and Jnani. So one might start the process by, because he's an Artha, he's seeking some comfort in life, he's seeking some redress in life, he's going through some misery, and therefore he seeks some answers. He wants to get out of that misery. Artharthi is the one who wants some comforts in life. He wants some achievements. And then Jignasu is one who really wants to know more about himself. And then, of course, Jnani is the one who has the self-knowledge. So in what category are we? Everybody seeks knowledge, as in comes to this path with these four different intentions behind. What is the driving force? But are we really doing that self-inquiry? Or are we just listening to this knowledge for that to feel adequate? Because we've started off with the presumption that I'm inadequate. So that makes a difference. And I think for that to happen requires, like it was mentioned, God's grace, the grace of the Guru.
Can you say that again, Dr. Brahmara? What are you saying about inadequate? I missed that point. What you're saying?
No, it is like we
So
start
start
off with the presumption that we are inadequate.
right in terms of what when you're seeking the knowledge, you mean?
Yeah, even in terms of seeking the knowledge.
Right.
It depends on with what intention you're seeking it, no?
Oh, yeah, true.
Is it
You
to,
said that the four types of things, right?
yeah, four types of devotees:
Mm,
Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu, and Jnani.
mm,
So when we start off saying, because it's nice to listen to self knowledge, nice to listen to Vedanta, because it's all talking about yourself.
right.
As long as you're listening to it, it is wonderful. That is why it said,
But if
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah. And Shrutvaphyenam vedana jaiva et kaschit. So even after listening to it,
Mm-hmm.
someone who does not understand is a
Yeah,
wonder.
it said like unscathed, untouched,
Yeah.
and like that. Yeah.
but one question I have, Dr. Brahma, like if a person is not seeking, like if he's not inquiring, will he go for this knowledge? Only like a person who wants to seek this knowledge, who wants to know about self, will go for this knowledge, because this knowledge would not lead to any profits, or there is no materialistic uh,
Yeah.
outcome any person
What
wants.
person wants in
Basically,
the life, right? And sorry to you finish your
no,
question. Yeah.
it was
No,
just,
what I'm saying is like when
like,
we all, I think at least we all started off wanting to read Gita. At least in my mind, when I was reading Gita, like a lot of places it mentions about the self, right? I mean, I didn't even understand when I just read it like a book. But only when we started off with that reading the basics, right? Like Atma Bodh, Tattva Bodh, and then Atma Bodh, then how Nana is involved in teaching us. So it took a person to really give that knowledge, and of course with the Guru's grace and some our own effort that you want to learn also gets, and then the more we know about it, that the purpose of the life is there's something more to it. Always as a human being we don't get satisfied with what we have in our life at this moment, but what is important in our life is different for different people, right? Like you said. So I think that the more we read about it, what is that the purushartha, the purpose of life is to seek I mean not seek, to achieve this moksha. When you
yeah,
know
but
it,
it
we
started
are
somewhere. No? You opted. Why did you opt for it initially?
right.
Why?
We didn't know that point. I didn't know about moksha part. Moksha means I thought people die and then they go to heaven. That's what it's called moksha. But I didn't know what the meaning of moksha until I started this last 2 years that we are reading. This is the only way I learned what it was. So the more I read about it, I'm inclined to pursue that path because that like I like to achieve. I mean, that's what that goal should be for me. Like that's how I kind of trying to understand and to go at least to try to see what I need to do to pursue that goal rather than yeah, you need some basic needs to sustain your life at this time in this birth, but then other than that I'm not like to pursue something else. So at least given reading for last 2 years these things, and it's kind of directing like somewhat in that path. It makes you, even a lot of my friends who comes with me, they don't even, they talk all the things that doesn't really make any sense, but then I try to explain, but they still argue about why Krishna did all this, what Duryodhana did is correct. Okay, I am not going to argue with these people, because when I try to tell them, they're not accepting it. So they're not ready for it, so I leave it at that. So anyway, just wanted to tell you like how how I felt also. I mean, to start up with, I didn't know the meaning of it, but once we are reading that, it helps.
Okay, Gurudev, and also, some people who are super saturated with material things too soon, too early. They're enjoyed so much, they don't know, the total saturation. They just, that inquisitiveness, they come into this, they come and sit. That's also is happening.
I think it is an inner craving, inner that you can say that a seeker sitting inside, which which is like it is finding its way out, and it is not just from last 2 years. It must be happening. It must be happening from many years since you were, like, I can say, you had that wisdom. And it is not that it's only of a
Yeah.
very short
Mm,
time. It must be happening in our young age too. But that time, as we were more involved in our activities and responsibilities more,
right.
then we were not able to find out. But we always found some solace when we got connected in any way to this knowledge, or
True.
related to this knowledge.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
it's only that a time which came, and then we found that this is the only thing which we want. We are not interested in other materialistic things or gains. It is this is what we wanted, and
Hmm.
this is where we are going, and that is why these classes are continuing and not disrupting.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not when I say that, I mean to go into the detail of understanding what the knowledge is now. But we had always that connection, right? Even my grandparents, or they were reading, and I even my great grandparents, they have written notes about Atma and all those things, like in the book. So those they have read even those days, like we think we are only reading the, it's there for ages, right? All our people before us also learned some of them, but like that we have some connection, when- throughout our life. That's why we are still able to swim in this life. But when I'm trying to narrow it down in terms of what this knowledge seeking took place, like a little bit more serious. We are spending more time in this every day, like this, consistently.
See, just seeking does not. 1 second, huh? So, just the fact that we're seeking this knowledge does not put us on the path of in the sense there are millions. That is why this statement is millions seek, but only one person among the millions will actually realize. Where is that thing?
It's in that you have to scroll up the last yeah. Some may follow it better than the others. I saw that follow here. The level of water somewhere I saw that one. The flowing
See,
water.
so among millions of people, only one person may be a seeker, and even among the seekers, only one person may see the truth of what is said.
Where is that line?
That's in the middle of this, in the first paragraph.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Among millions of the people.
So understanding Atma is not easy. Therefore, one who knows Atma without any doubt whatsoever, one who sees it directly, Yaha Atmanam Pashyati, is a wonder because he or she has had to reverse an entire process. I mean, these things are the next paragraph also is very introspective. Our natural trait is to follow the beaten track in our ways of thinking, in our pursuits, and so on. We constantly strive to make something of ourselves because initially we condemn ourselves as useless. We try to set the Atma up nicely by the pursuit of a samsari. First, we think of the Atma as a samsari. Then we look for some means of support so that the samsari can be better, so that he or she can develop some spine, some character, and so on. We think of the Atma as so drooped that it requires some kind of a support system in order to be acceptable. This is the nature of people. They are like flowing water that finds its own level. In this way, people tend to follow the beaten track. So, how we start off these pursuits?
So I started a little late. So you read about difficulty understanding Atma.
That was done.
Oh, okay.
That was done. So here it is like you begin saying, I am insecure. The very fact that you start off is like you're saying, I'm insecure, and therefore, in order to find some security, I'm coming seeking this. As a samsari. This is the natural track. This is what the natural track is. But whereas even to start the process of self-inquiry is a big thing. Because you should question yourself. He asks himself, am I a samsari? Some may follow it better than others. If one person makes money in a particular pursuit, another may try to make the same money in another pursuit. But this is all really one beaten track with only minor variations. Nevertheless, such people are called creative Whereas the really creative person is one who questions the very seeker. This is important, right? The very seeker is questioned. Who is the person who's seeking? This is what Swami Chinmayananda meant when he said the person who processes, who questions, who is courageous enough to look at himself. And this is what Gurudev says when people say we are bored. You're bored of yourself. So it is all about directing your thinking process within. Who is the one who is talking? Who is the one who is seeking? Who is the one who is... So that, I suppose, is what is meant
Isn't
by...
it you wonder, like, when you say you're seeking yourself, I am seeking myself. Is that do you understand what I'm saying? Like that,
Right.
that kind of sounds funny, but again, that's what this is. Like, am I samsari? Am I samsari? You question. Okay, so what are you then? So then same question comes, like, who am I, and that kind of stuff. So
that is what we do, that basic course process, no? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? That kindles that, no? Who are you?
Yeah.
That question. Such a beautifully arranged by Guruji. Everything,
Yeah. Who am I is like a question you ask, like, oh, I am so and so. I'm a doctor. I'm this. I'm that. I'm a mother. I'm a
No,
wife.
see, we
That's
usually
all
don't ask
like.
who.
That's how we
We,
always say respond, right? What I'm saying is, like, we ask ourselves that means you negate all those things. Okay, I'm not this, I'm not that. Now, really we have to ask that kind of question to really.
see, we don't ask, the process is, we don't ask ourselves, who am I? Many times. We always respond to the others. So, Guruji has that process is made. Who are you?
So who are you rather than
Who are
who am
you? So when you start asking it, who are you? Who are you? Repeatedly, it comes to who am I? Ultimately,
Oh,
such a beautiful process.
We say, who are you? Like you're asking in front of you,
In front of, see, we always respond to the others, many times. We are going out. So when we ask repeatedly, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? It makes him to go to that, who am I?
Okay.
Oh, good. Very nicely arranged. Very good. Thank you.
If one assumes that one is a samsari, so the question is, am I a samsari? This person, the really creative person, is the one who questions the very seeker. He asks himself, am I a samsari? If one assumes that one is a samsari, any pursuit is a beaten track. The one who questions whether he or she is a samsari reverses the whole process. It is something like water climbing up the mountain. Water flowing down is nothing, it is natural. However, water that begins to flow upwards is truly a wonder, an ascharya to behold. And then, even to start the process of self inquiry is a big thing. See, what we're doing is Shravana and Manana, right? But actual self enquiry begins when we do nididhyasana, when we start contemplating all that we have listened to, understood, discussed, that process of self enquiry. A certain grace is definitely required, otherwise, starting is not possible. Just as it requires a lot of horsepower to send water up a hill, so too, for a person who has been following the beaten track, to question whether he or she is a samsari requires a lot of horsepower, God power or grace. And if the person discovers the truth, he or she is definitely a wonder.
Getting all that energy saved, like
Mhm.
through the sadhana,
Right.
not when you hear about all these rishis who were doing tapas for years, and they open their eyes, they burn everybody in front of them, like that much energy they got in there. Like that kind of, the horse competition, the water uphill. Obviously, that to even to go to self inquiry, you need a lot of preparation. Mm. And also it needs God power or grace. Whether he or she is a samsari requires a lot of horsepower. Um,
I think the teacher also makes a lot of difference. In our
yeah.
case, we have been very, very lucky. Like Nanaji, when he took us through Tattva Bodh, Atma Bodh,
Mm,
my when I started on this path, like my mind was full of misery. I had lost all my siblings, three siblings in 1 month's time during COVID.
mm,
And then
mm,
when he started Tattva Bodh, that knowledge really helped me come out of that situation. And the way Nanaji was like, he would quote from which chapter to which chapter, some sutra here, some sutra there, all by heart. So the good teacher who can uplift you and bring you to that level of knowledge, who can bring you out of your misery was also very important. And then Dr. Brahmra has been continuing this, and she also is well versed in this. So the way she explains, I just like I feel that all that we are gaining today is because of the efforts of these two people. Like there are gurus and there are Tarak gurus. Tarak guru is one who uplifts you, who pulls you up, who takes your hand and pulls you out of the ditch that you are in, from the muck, the puddle that you are in, pulls you out. And these two people have rendered yeoman service to us over these 3 years. Nanaji's verses used to ring in my head for the whole day. Like after he would repeat, he would chant. I didn't know these verses. I can't repeat them myself, but it was just going on mentally within my mind when I used to listen to his chanting, and I miss it. Like, wow, Jai Gurudev.
he's our guru.
Because of the grace we got them.
This is your humility, Persiji, really. We're all students, we're all co-students. It's just that we're all instruments in this.
No,
So
Brahmaraji, we had to agree with Persiji. I feel you articulate it so nicely. Really.
Very true, very true.
Yes,
we,
Dr. Brahma.
we, we all know the knowledge, but to put it in the words also is to express
Yeah,
the unexpressible is a very, very difficult task.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
So you are
like
doing a
we are
very
so
good job.
thankful
You are
and
doing a
grateful
very
to
good
you.
job. We are lucky to have you.
We are
Yes.
referring to all the slokas also by heart, for Dr. Brahmaran. So quoting from here, there also. Really, really like when you're reading Dr. Brahmara, and also when you're reading or you're saying, I'm not sure. I sometimes wonder, then I say, oh, and read the paragraph. It sounds like, so fluent.
Yeah, even Gurudev had said once in some satsangs, he has said in many places, that at least like Christians read the Bible. All Christians read, like 80-90% must have read. Like, so he said, how many of you have read the Gita? And he said, at least read it once in your lifetime. So I also went and bought. There were these ISKCON people parading in open places. I just picked up a book. It looked good. It was written Bhagavad Gita on it. I took it. I underline. I have a habit of putting a tick mark, double tick if I find something very important and all that. But then that knowledge never stayed with me after reading it once. It's only here after we started with Nanaji and we went through Tattva Bodh and Atma Bodh that this knowledge has become, there is so much of clarity now from what I had earlier. Of course, a long way to go to get the kind of knowledge that Dr. Brahmra has, but still, this knowledge is profound and I've benefited by being in this group. That knowledge coming from that book was, it never remained in my mind. Here, the churning goes on happening. Like throughout the day, also, you're doing something else, but you're correlating it with this subject that we are doing in the morning today. So, like every day, it is like that. Somewhere, something you find a connection.
Yeah, and that is what is, I think, this self inquiry, this walking, climbing up against the mountain. Otherwise, people come, they feel good, they feel nice about listening to themselves, because all of Vedanta is about talking about the self. It's very nice to listen, say you're Satchidananda, you're full, you're whole, you're Purna. But then something happens and then we get caught up in the samsari once we're out of this. So that true self-inquiry is when we sit at the seat of meditation, seat of contemplation, and start questioning, who am I? Who is this? What is the purpose of my life? It does not again mean like Buddha, you just go and sit and meditate all the time and not do what you're supposed to do. Fortunately, we have Krishna who has guided Arjuna and all of us Arjunas there, saying, hello, there is no room for sorrow. That is why he starts off by saying, he creates that room, that elbow room, to explain the 17 chapters of the Gita, to say why there is no reason for you to be sorrowful. He starts off validating Arjuna's position, says, you're not alone, you're not the only one who's ignorant, everybody else out there is in the same boat as you are. Not knowing self-knowledge is the main reason, the basic fundamental problem is that you're ignorant of yourself. He starts off with there's no room for sorrow and goes on to explain all the 17 chapters. Otherwise, that is what was explained here. He could have just said, you're Ananda, you're Satchidananda, period. That's it, full stop, no other discussion. But he said there is no room for sorrow and went on to explain who Atma is, what is Atma, and why a person becomes sorrowful. So we'll stop here today. I think it is all the grace of the Master, grace of the Divine, that we're all here. And each one of us is contributing to the other person. That is the whole purpose of Manana, right? And I'm so indebted. We're all grateful to Gurudev for having brought us together. And during COVID, it was Charna who picked up he did these Bhagavad Gita sessions, and he was the one, although Gurudev has always been saying, read the Bhagavad Gita, it was Charna who actually started off saying, and he would go into depth of every verse. And he said, in order to take it forward, you should read it with the word, pratipadartha, word by word, meaning. And then I think it was there. It was a collective consciousness that brought us together. Nana was instrumental in kindling that interest that we all had. And it is again Krishna's grace that we are able to continue as a group, as a team. So um, it is the collective consciousness and grace that is taking this forward.
Yeah, we may like to read one more time the Atma Bodh again.
Yeah. See, we
Now that we need to go to make sure we note out. This is really good.
so we'll stop here today, and we'll start with verse 30 tomorrow. Maybe do a little recap of 29 and go to 30 tomorrow. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.
हमारा जो सेटअप होता है खाने का, जैसे टेबल लगाना, टेबल के ऊपर खाने का बर्तन रखना, उसके पहले
कोई 5-7 मिनट ध्यान कर लेते हैं, आराम से बैठ जाइए। अब हथेली को अपने घुटने में रखिए, दोनों हथेली खुला रहे। अब सांस लेते लेते उंगलियों को साथ लेके आए जैसे कली जैसे, और सांस छोड़ते छोड़ते उंगलियों को खोल दीजिए। ऐसे सांस लीजिए, ऐसे 5 उंगलियों को साथ लेके आए, सांस लेके रोकिए और सांस छोड़ते वक्त धीरे धीरे हाथ को खोल दीजिए। इस तरह से हम 5 बार करेंगे। लेट्स ब्रीद इन and bring our fingers together and hold the breath. Keep your attention at the top of the head, and as you breathe out, open your fingers and relax. We are doing it 5 times. फिर एक बार सांस लेते लेते उसी रफ्तार से उंगलियों को साथ लेके आएंगे। सांस को रोकते हैं, सिर की चोटी पर सांस रखिए और सांस छोड़ते वक्त हाथ को खोल दीजिए, शरीर को ढीला छोड़ दें। रीढ़ की हड्डी सीधा रहे, कंधों को ढीला छोड़ दे, चेहरे में मुस्कान हो। एक गहरी सांस लीजिए। टेक अ डीप ब्रेथ इन। कंधों को ढीला छोड़ते हैं। जब हम इस दुनिया में आए सिर्फ 3 किलो 4 किलो वजन के थे, अब हम 60 70 80 90 किलो वजन के हो गए हैं। अपना वजन को जिस कुर्सी या जमीन पर बैठे वहां आप रख दीजिए। Place the weight of your body on the chair or on the floor you are sitting. मन ही मन अपने ही शरीर को सम्मान करें। अपना शरीर कुदरत से, ईश्वर से मिला हुआ एक अद्भुत देन है। अरबों खरबों अणु परमाणुओं से बना है हमारा शरीर। और 10, 20, 30, 40 साल बाद ये शरीर भस्म हो जाएगा, प्रकृति के साथ एक हो जाएगा। इस सत्य को मन ही मन समझ लें। Honor your own body. जैसे जल में मछली, ऐसे वायु में हम हैं। हमारे भीतर बाहर वायुमंडल है, इसके प्रति सजग हो जाएं। एक और गहरी सांस लीजिए और सांस छोड़ के विश्राम करें। चेहरे में मुस्कान रहे, शरीर को ढीला छूते हैं। इस वक्त ना कुछ करना है, ना ही कुछ जानना है, केवल विश्राम। ओम शांति शांति शांति। सभी प्रयत्नों को छोड़ दे, विश्राम करें। और धीरे धीरे शरीर और परिसर के प्रति सजग हो जाएं और आंखें खोल सकते हो।